So we're one game into Copa America. What a match that was. What a performance by Canada. One of the best performances I think I've seen for a long time. Or am I just being kind of blinded here, Dubs, by the occasion and kind of what it meant and that they held their own? Am I pumping their tires a little bit too much? I thought it was a brilliant performance. And yeah, okay, we can discuss the finishing. We'll get to that. But overall, to go toe-to-toe, the mentality, if nothing else, against the world champs on that stage, massively impressive.
Yes, and I agree with you for sure, but I think you come back with all of the positives that you can pull out of that, and it's growth. I think you look at it towards 26, you look at it after that result or the draw versus France, that they're able to replicate that performance and even improve in certain areas. But if Messi is able to capitalize on a few of those opportunities, Crepeau isn't as massive as he was in thwarting, their big stars and preventing them from scoring more. Are we still thinking as positively about this match? That's kind of my takeaway. If that's 3 or 4-0, are we still as pleased?
Valid point, Jimmy. But at the same time, Max Crepeau is a Canadian player who did his job and made some huge saves. Correct?
Yes. I'm sorry, you said valid point, Jimmy?
Yes. I was kind of throwing to you. It's a broadcaster's little trick. So valid point.
Valid point. Me.
I thought you were
valid point. Valid point. But Jimmy.
No, there was no but. It was a valid point, Jimmy.
I get why he got confused there, but
I don't. It's fairly easy.
Valid point, Jimmy.
Valid point, Jimmy.
That's also a great
valid point, Dubs.
Song for
now you go.
Yeah. Valid point, Jimmy.
You should have said valid point, Dubs. And Jimmy, what did you think? That's how I would have handled it.
Fuck off. Just talk.
Jimmy hosts a couple of TFC3 questions, and now he thinks he can fucking steer the shit, right?
No shit.
It's just it's the proper etiquette. That's what you should have done.
Oh.
Okay, Dubs, valid point. Hey, Jimmy, do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I think Max Crepeau, that's his job, is to keep the ball at the back of the net, and he did that last night. I think every player's got to be accountable for their actions on the pitch, and I thought every player was absolutely brilliant last night. I loved the work ethic, the commitment. They matched Argentina's work ethic, and I liked how they respected Argentina, but at the same time when the game started, they were like, we're going to come at you today. And they did. And I loved the flow and the rhythm of the game. I thought it was absolutely brilliant for me. It's one of the best performances that I think I've seen, and especially against World Cup champions Argentina. I thought their performance against France was great. The first half against Holland was great. And it's showing that these players can compete. We can compete with some of the best teams in the world. And I will really want to see how they're going to react now going against a Peru and a Chile with teams that aren't as experienced and have as many accolades as what the teams that we've just played, and to see how they handle it and whether they're capable of dictating a game and controlling a game against Peru and Chile. So I'd love to see this now, them continuing this performance.
Are you worried at all about, I mentioned replicating the great performance against France, and then you mentioned the first half against the Netherlands. I'd argue it was probably about 25 minutes or half an hour. Apparently my glass is half empty today, but I'm just going to roll with it. But then over the course of the tournament, we've spoken about the lack of depth in the roster. Yeah. Is that problematic as you project forward? Say you anticipate them playing well against Peru and Chile, hopefully optimistically getting out of the group. Does that become a concern at that point because you have to be more reliant than just on this 11?
For me, yes. I mean, we talked about this before. We said, I probably after 13, 14, I don't think we're as strong with our depth. And if we do get injuries, we could be in trouble. But I think you're going to rely heavily on this 11. Maybe Richie Larea who can come in there and do a job. Probably Oso could come in and do a job. Schaffelberg can come on and do a job. So after that, I think you're pretty much you're not going to have the same standard as what you've got with that starting 11 right now. So
I really liked Schaffelberg.
Yeah, I love it.
I thought he lent so much in the way of energy. That's what you want your substitutes to do. They provide a lift in that way, in tempo and in energy, how lively he was. But I just love how aggressive he is. and then what that gave the team in terms of depth. And regardless if he's playing for Nashville and putting MLS guys on their heels, or with the national team, I don't think he cares who's in front of him. And that type of mindset and attitude, I thought it gave the team a lift in that regard as well. Not just the energy part, but in terms of like the width provided and just really less spark on that flank.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we always say when your substitutions, and as a manager, if you look at your bench, you're thinking who's going to come on and do a job. And you have to bring something to the table when you come on the bench, off the bench. You've got to keep the standard or bring that little bit extra that's going to make a difference. And I think Schaffelberg, when he does come off the bench, he is a guy that continuously, and we see it all the time, where he does change the game.
Yeah, I agree. And Tajon, he looks a little rusty to me still. He hasn't played that much football down the stretch since he moved to Inter Milan.
Yeah.
He's had his moments, obviously, but it's an alternative, right? Isn't it? A great alternative to have that ability to take off Tajon Buchanan and bring on a Schaffelberg, or maybe, who knows, maybe start with a Schaffelberg at some point. We'll see how it develops. Craig joins us. Hey, Craig.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good, mate. Good. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. Is it dangerous to adjust our expectations through a tournament? I mean, do you look at this Canada team now and their potential to advance in this group any differently, having seen that performance last night?
Yes. Yeah. I had a hard time sleeping last night. As you could tell, I got up really late. But it was incredibly entertaining and incredibly proud of the team. I thought they really held their own and great performances. Obviously, Argentina had some great chances. Max Crepeau was standing on his head again after following up after the French side, the 2 World Cup finalists. He was keeping them off the score sheet for a game and a half. Like, I mean, really, it was pretty interesting to watch, and that we held our own, and the fact that, like, in reality, the gulf between the two countries as a footballing countries is massive. Like, it's not even close. I think we were allocated 1,500 tickets for that match. Canada and Argentina were allocated 40,000, and then the rest were all Argentina anyways. Like, most countries would have half that stadium, and that's fine. It's what we are, but punching above our weight, I would say.
Talking about Max, can you kind of break down just what kind of goalkeeper he is? I mean, it's easy to say, oh, he's a brave goalkeeper, and he's extremely brave, but he's so much more than that. He seems to read the angles extremely well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, you make up a good point. He is brave, and you kind of forget that what he went through with that broken leg, and sometimes make it gun shy a little bit, but it hasn't at all. What he's got is, I think he's in the prime of his career. He's at the very best he's been. Everything about him, his distribution, his body language, his presence, like nothing fazed him. He wasn't fazed by any of that, and he was like actually looking forward to it. You could tell he was going to be busy. He knew that, and prime of his career. We were actually talking, Jimmy, at the event, and about somebody taking a punt with him, like in the Premier League or one of the 5 leagues. Like, he's not going to let you down, and he's proven that he can play at that level. So it'd be interesting to see whether that would happen, and get a big contract somewhere in one of the big 5 leagues. I mean, he's getting paid fairly well in MLS, but not anywhere near what he could be.
What do you think?
Sorry, Jimmy. I just wanted to say, Craig also said we were at St. Louis Bar and Grill with a Sports Interaction last night, and Craig also said, as we were eating wings, that Max Crepeau should lose another 5 pounds. So it was.
No, I didn't.
You fucking hypocrite, Craig Forrest.
I think he did lose 5 pounds.
Yeah. Sorry, Jimmy, I interrupted you. Apologies.
No, I was going to say, what would be the hesitation for a bigger club not to come at him right now?
I don't know. If he's standing in between the sticks of Argentina, he's getting a move. He's getting a move. He's every bit as good as Martinez, in my opinion.
Wow.
Ooh, now that is gonna conjure some debate. That's a lot. He's a World Cup winner, Craig.
Yeah, well, he was also the backup of Arsenal before he went to Aston Villa.
Yeah, and
So I mean, he's done incredibly well. But and I was a fan of his when he actually did play at Arsenal. But he until he went to Aston Villa, that was the first time he got regular football in the Premier League.
And even a bigger fan after he wanked off with the gold glove.
Yeah, the trophy celebration.
Greg was all over that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, seeing where he came from, and then where he ended up and winning the World Cup. If that was me, I might have been wanking on stage too.
Would you take a backup role in the Prem over a starting role in MLS? Forget money here.
There's backups. If you were a backup, like say for Chelsea, making $8 million a year, I don't think he's on $1 million.
Forget money though for a second.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
it's a motivating factor. I get it.
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll work my ass off to try to get myself in that team.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on something that Craig said about Max, that he wasn't fazed by, that Argentine attack. And I think collectively, looking at the tournament playing in front of 70,000 people who are rooting against you, playing that occasion, the tournament play that awaits them, what they've already got in their locker, having participated in the World Cup and moving through qualifications, like what that lends to this group. So collectively, I think they're at a point where they realize that they can hang. It doesn't matter who they're facing and what that does for your confidence. And then the fact that they were able to play France, a strong performance, do it again against Argentina, and you keep building that way. But what it does for you in terms of your swagger, your mindset, your mentality, that's just reinforcing everything I think that Marsh is trying to establish internally. And then to have it validated via results, even though they still lost 2-0, but Larin and David will be criticized, I think, the most heavily. I mean, Eustachio gets that opportunity as well, but there's the header. It's David's header, right? Off
right.
That cross for not finishing. And yes, he has to do more for country because we know that he can do that. He has that class. He has that quality. But the defensive work that they put in and the buy-in that Marsh is getting, I think, coupled with the validation, the reinforcement of these results, the individual play, but also the concepts that they're employing, is just massive. So we're talking, taking a macro look, we're zoomed right in. They're in tournament play. But what this means long-term is really, really big for this program.
I totally agree. And then even after they conceded, it was like, well, why would they drop their head? They've just been going toe to toe with the best, the world champions for the last hour or more. No reason to be, I think building in confidence. And you're right. I think, just seeing Marsh after the Dutch game and how they approached France and how they press and getting to the stage where they're playing against Argentina, it was impressive to the point where they got it. And everybody was in tandem. When they decided to go, it wasn't like in bits and bobs. It was like they all went together and they looked like a team that had been practicing and training for an awful long time. So hats off to Jesse Marsh. And let's face it, Alphonso Davies, we talked about the captaincy and all that kind of thing. If it gets his finger out of his ass and he's going to fucking play like, a world star like he is, good for him. Good for him. Yeah, if he matures and all that kind of stuff. He knows.
They still haven't scored goals in 3 games, right? We can talk about all the positives, and there's so many, but they are not clinical in the final third, Jimmy. And it's pretty important, right? If you're going to be a successful football team, you need to at some point start scoring goals. We know they have talent. We know John David is going to go to a very big club pretty soon. They should have scored last night. They should have scored against France too. They didn't. At what point does that become a concern?
I mean, if we're going to take a positive out of this, at least we're getting there and creating chances. It'd be even more of a concern if we weren't getting in that final third and we didn't create opportunities. We're actually creating opportunities against big teams. And now it's just being clinical in the box. And, Stecchio does the right thing. The ball comes over. He gets it down, what you meant to do, but he's got to pick the corner out. And we've seen a couple of chances over the last couple of games where they've just got to be more precise when they're in that area. But at least we're getting the balls into the box. We're getting them into the right areas. There's actually numbers in the box, but they've just got to be clinical. And I think in time, and you hope it eventually all clicks and we do finish those opportunities. But I think you've got even more of a problem if you're not creating those opportunities. Then you are in trouble.
Yeah, you're right, Jimmy. And then most of the time, I think we're happy at that because we did create chances, and I don't think we expected we would create as many as we did. But eventually, you got to put the ball in the fucking net. You get to the World Cup in 26, and you're playing brilliant football, and this team has even got better, and you get those chances. Fuck, that's what you got to do. It's the hardest part of the business, but you got to do it, and that's what it'll get to at some point. But at this point in time, the fact that they created those chances, I think that was pretty impressive too.
Yeah, and I love just the way that they're playing, just being so brave. Even Miller against France, just to be that confident and brave to come inside and think, I'm going to whip this far post. I'm going for goal here. And
Richie Larea came on, Richie Larea comes on, and he's getting into it a little bit, just enough, not too much, but just enough that fucking love that guy.
Yeah, we do.
JC and I were texting because you guys abandoned us. You were at that event, and so JC and I were having our own WhatsApp event, and I was by myself at the Burgundy Line in Montreal because I was at an event for CF Montreal. Yeah, a little bit. And Richie was getting into it with that Argentine player, and I was like, "Fucking right, Richie!"
I know it's a Canadian thing. The bar we're at, we're going crazy as well. It's such a Canadian thing. Richie's just going shoulder to shoulder and just like chesting and stuff. And settle down a little bit, Rich.
In the back when Argentina was coming out, and then all of a sudden Richie just pushes past and walks through the crowd. It was amazing.